I'm with Yashwant Deshmukh and Rahul Verma, two of India's best-known political analysts. Mr. Deshmukh is a psephologist and director of C Voter. Rahul Verma is a senior fellow at the Center for Policy Research in New Delhi. And today we're discussing, of course, this very busy political weekend that India has had. The Congress has just concluded its Chintan Shivir in Udaipur. The BJP also on Sunday evening has started a discussion in Ahmedabad in Gujarat on the Gujarat elections later this year, also being called a Chintan Shivir. And in Tripura, in the northeast, a new BJP chief minister has taken power. This is Malik Saha, and we're going to discuss all these. But before that, let me welcome you both to the print. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Yashwant, let me start with you. What is the moral of the story from the Chintan Shivir of the Congress party in Udaipur? One man, one family, one ticket is the big news. With the caveat कि अगर 5 साल अगर आपने काम किया होगा, then the person in this family can also get a second ticket. But your first comments.
Well, I actually don't know what actually came out of all that Chintan, honestly speaking, because it was more like a committee forming another committee and we'll look into it and too many paperwork that are being. But till this point of time, I still feel Priyanka Gandhi during the UP election saying 40% tickets to be given to females, that was a much bigger news break or disruptor than whatsoever has come out of this entire Chintan.
But that was not discussed at all, or at least from the media reports, that didn't come up at all in this discussion.
Exactly. So if suppose they had taken a blanket decision that, okay, what Priyanka Gandhi decided in UP, we are, as a policy, we are going to take it forward, and this will apply across India, across all the election. We are going to give 40% ticket, or 33%, even not 45%, 40%. Forget about it. I mean, even 10%. If they would have said something on that line, it would have made more news to that. Second thing, which you just mentioned in your opening remark, one family, one ticket. I guess that majority of the news channels, and I actually saw the graphics of NDTV, if I'm not wrong, that with the exception of the Gandhis, I mean, for practical matters.
Yeah.
I mean, who says that? I mean, that,
I think it's implicit.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rule for everybody, but not for me. I mean, that's something which doesn't go across well. If the message has gone that, then certainly the message is lost. So, I could not, actually, honestly speaking, I could not figure out anything that, okay, G23 and rest of them, was there any reapproachment of sort in that way? Was there any decision taken about, I understand there was a committee which would be purely looking on the elections, general elections, and that is it's still not clear whether it is only national elections or it is looking for the state elections, and the state elections will continue the way it is and it is going to focus on the national election. However, having a complete unit focused only on elections, that could be a welcome step for them. But compare that to the other side, where the Prime Minister and Home Minister are 24/7 in the election mode, and you can certainly think like they cannot be separated in a way. Right. Everybody from the president right up to the bottom, and everybody from the Prime Minister, if they can continuously think of being in election mode, you cannot probably outsource that thing to, okay, committee banate hain and they will take care of the elections and so on. And whether it is a high-powered committee, all-power committee, whether if that committee says Rahul Gandhi, thou shall not contest next election from Wayanad, will Rahul Gandhi be able to avoid that? I mean, avoid
That's
that.
Right.
So we don't know yet.
So let me pick up on that, Rahul, to you. Yashwant's point that Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah constantly in election mode. I mean, you have seen Monday ko PM Nepal ja rahe hain for about 5 or 6 hours, और वापसी में लौटते हुए he will be in Lucknow, where he will have dinner with Yogi Ji, the Chief Minister, and the entire Council of Ministers. So this constant being in election mode, and Amit Shah there is a discussion already started in Ahmedabad about the Gujarat elections later this year. How do you compare this with what the Congress is doing or has done in Udaipur?
Jyoti, I don't need to compare it, right? Like, the results of last 2 elections. and you could figure out where the Congress is today and where the BJP is today, right? The approach being, the results are reflected in the approach. But let me say something about the Chintan Shivir. First, if you remember, Sonia Gandhi's inaugural address at the Chintan Shivir was that exceptional situation demands exceptional solution. But in those 3 days, I don't think they even understood that the situation is actually exceptional. In fact, today I wrote a piece for the Times of India where I said, instead of reading what happened at Chintan Shivir, if you are a Congress sympathizer, you should actually listen to Sunil Jakhar's 40-minute speech, because that speech has much more content in terms of what the crisis is. So I think Jakhar has a better diagnosis of the situation. And without diagnosing the situation, you cannot offer solutions. So the solutions which have been offered is just small tweaking, family.
So what is this diagnosis? What is the essential problem with the Congress party? Let me ask you.
That the Congress party today does not know what it stands for, what the party's unique selling point is. Why should people rally behind the Congress party? Parties decline because of 3 reasons. First one is splits and organizational atrophy. Second one is leadership crisis. But third one is, and that's the reason why parties die, when you don't know what you stand for. So the first order challenge for the Congress at Chintan Shivir was to address what the party stands for.
Rahul Gandhi has said that we stand for secularism. And in fact, he keeps saying that at least in the Congress party, you can have a conversation. In the BJP, you cannot have a conversation, right?
No, you can't say, saying and meaning what you are saying are two different things. If you stand for secularism, then you can't claim that I'm a Janeudhari Brahmin. If you stand for secularism, then you can't be visiting temples just at the time of election. So you have to mean what you say. Otherwise, everyone can say whatever they want, and that can't.
No, but Yashwant, is that correct? I can be a Janeudhari Brahmin. I mean, I can't be a Janeudhari Brahmin, but I can be a Brahmin, go to a temple, and be secular. Isn't that right, Yashwant?
That's precisely the problem. What you said is bingo. That's the right thing to do and say. We all can follow our own things with pride, right, and still be secular.
Yes.
The problem with where what Rahul is suggesting and what you are saying, both you are absolutely correct in your own diagnosis and going in the same direction. And this is what for the audience to understand. You see, Congress has got struck in something which Rahul Gandhi feels he really stands for. Mm-hmm. What his satraps and the real politics people in Congress, they understand that what you technically stand for is not electorally viable in India anymore.
Which is what? Which
is in one single line, Jyoti. If I look into religious or polarization, binary of polarization, in India, you can easily win an election being pro-Muslim. No problem in that. We have seen from Mamata Banerjee to Arvind Kejriwal, everybody winning an election while being pro-Muslim. Undoubtedly, and they have been saying there is no nothing. But in India, you cannot win an election after being branded as anti-Hindu. Mm-hmm. Problem with this branding is that whatsoever ideological positioning or whatever the communication positioning of Rahul Gandhi has been so far, or for that matter, the many other Congress leaders who have been left of center and in that way so far, that it actually branded Congress and continues to keep on branding Congress rather than pro-Muslim, a very clear branding of being anti-Hindu.
Is that the perception that the Congress is seen as anti-Hindu?
Absolutely. And that's the perception. And that is what the regional leaders of the Congress have been brilliantly trying to counter. For example, the reaction to Kashmir file, what their central left of center leaders have been doing and what Bhupesh Baghel did. That gives you it's a very, very simple example,
right,
of going lock, stock and barrel against the Kashmir file and Bhupesh Baghel saying, "मैं सबको लेकर के सारे MLAs को लेकर के picture देखने जा रहा हूं." He did not bother the line towed by the center. Similarly, Kamal Nath doing a Hanuman Chalisa, that is superficial. I don't follow that, I don't think wearing a Janehu and doing a Hanuman Chalisa is going to get you vote. But what they are definitely trying to do or definitely trying to approach is to consistently try now bend over backward to ensure that people do not consider them anti-Hindu.
But
Look at the Aam Aadmi Party. I'm telling you, go beyond Congress. Look at the way Aam Aadmi Party has handled the recent case of Amanullah Khan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did not defend what they felt like is a Muslim branding which is not suitable or subtle for the Hindu majority. You know, they do not want to antagonize the Hindu majority. They want to keep a secular line. They want to say that we are pro-Muslim, but they are going out of their way to ensure they. You see, one statement on Kashmir file of Arvind Kejriwal backfired to them also. That YouTube pe dal do. It did not go down well, you know. So there is a very clear disconnect between what Rahul Gandhi feels he stands for and what rest of the Congress leaders feel they stand for.
Rahul, can I ask you? Yeah. Rahul, can I ask you this question? Do you agree that that this perception that Congress Party is an anti-Hindu party, how valid is that? And tied to that is the question that Rahul Gandhi today, he is everywhere. He stands next to his mother. She is at least the interim president, but he doesn't even have a position in the party. So why is it that nobody is asking the question, who is Rahul Gandhi?
Okay. So first point, and this is not my perception, the leaked information which many people have written about in media, that the 2014 Antony Committee report, which Sonia Gandhi appointed to look into the matters why the party lost, A.K. Antony in his report says that there is a perception that party has become anti-Hindu. Now, whether it is true or not, it is party's assessment. Now, the question is, what is, like, in your assessment, if that's the reason, what are you doing to basically bring that down? And what Yashwant ji is actually hinting at, see, in every decade or in any political time, there is going to be an ideological space which will determine where the median voter is. As a political party, you have to make an assessment of what the situation looks like, where the ideological median is, and try maneuvering your way through it. Okay. In the Congress Chintan Shivir, the problem is that Congress party, and they should be doing this, which is basically discussing about foreign policy, discussing about economic situation, political situation, but they should be discussing, then it would be useful if they can figure out what the ideological map of India look like and what the party's tactical line to basically find their way into it should be. But they didn't do that. That's the problem. They didn't do an assessment. They couldn't figure out what
but do they know? No, 1 second. My question to you, this is a big thing that you all are talking about, that the Congress is perceived as anti-Hindu. And like you said, A.K. Antony report is as old as 2014, 6 years. I think the Congress has lost almost all the elections it has fought. Its footprint has shrunk so badly. The question is, does the Congress believe that this is what the main issue is, or are there other issues in the mind of the Congress party?
We don't know, because we have not seen, there is no public document. Even in Congress party's assessment, as I said, like the only thing that came out from the Chintan Shivir was that the situation is exceptional. They have not yet basically put forward where things have gone wrong. The only other thing, Rahul Gandhi in closing speech said that our communication with people has broken. We need to go on the ground. Other than that, like, we don't know what is Congress party's assessment of how things have gone wrong, what people have perceived them wrongly. Is it about the leadership crisis? Is it their position on the economy? Is it their position on minority appeasement, what some people will call it? So Congress party, and that's the diagnosis. You have to figure out where the communication is broken and how you can intervene to change things. And you are absolutely right about Rahul Gandhi. At the moment, the Gandhi family and Rahul Gandhi, without holding any formal position, he remains the de facto power center. Everyone keeps saying that nothing in the Congress party can be done without taking consent of Rahul Gandhi at the moment. So I think people are asking these questions, and that's why you are seeing attrition from the Congress party. So Congress, in some ways, is bleeding.
But the question is, Yashwant, why is Rahul Gandhi, who has no position, why is it that all these very smart young men and women, G23, Joe, it's almost 2 years since that that Ginger group was formed, why is it that nobody can challenge Rahul Gandhi?
I don't know. I mean, and honestly speaking, Rahul just mentioned that Antony report, and mentioned that the one of the big reasons that party is being now seen as anti-Hindu perception is going on. And what was Rahul Gandhi's big ticket decision after that? He shifted from Amethi, not shifted, but contested for it. Altogether, the choice of the seat was Wayanad. That selection of that one seat, do you know how much that contributed further to the Congress being seen as anti-Hindu party? Of all 543 seats, Rahul Gandhi could figure out only one seat, that to Wayanad.
Because it's run by a communist party. Was that the perception?
It was a Muslim majority seat. The victory over there was super secure. That's why. That's the real reason, and that's precisely what the public understood from it. So I mean, it's a kind of weird that the reason why you lost 2014, and your biggest big ticket announcement or big ticket decision in 2019 election is that you are moving further, taking a decision which is kind of hammering down the big reason that was the core reason of 2014. I mean, if I have to believe AK Antony's report, even if not going by my thing. But yes, why nobody is challenging Rahul Gandhi?
Yeah.
Why is that happening? That's something which for the, what I find funny, Jyoti, in the Congress imbroglio right now is Congress's problem in the 10 years when they were in power and taking the decisions was that the entire CWC was full of leaders which were not really mass leaders, full of leadership, which was not even in a position to win a single municipality ward on its own. Forget about Lok Sabha and state.
Okay.
And yet 10 years went by, and now we see majority of such leaders also becoming a part of 23 thing and saying that we need reforms. So where I feel, Rahul Gandhi did right was in the assessment that he needs to get rid of the old wood and infuse the fresh blood. But what practically did he do? Did he give chance to Sachin Pilot? Did he give chance to Jyotiraditya Scindia? Anywhere, any young leader who has a chance or guts to grow up, the people around Rahul Gandhi ensure that they are chopped off right there then and then.
Okay, but the question is, now you talked about Sachin Pilot. Rahul explained to me for the last 4 years, elections will take place in Rajasthan in a year and a half from now, end of 2023. Now, Sachin Pilot has been pleading for the last 3.5 years कि आप मुझे chief minister बनाओ, मुझे chief minister बनाओ. He has been promised that he will be made chief minister. The question is that Jyotiraditya Scindia, Sachin Pilot, and in fact Manik Saha, who is now the chief minister of Tripura, was a former congressman. In fact, there are several such congressmen and women who have joined the BJP, and we know that story. But my question to you, Rahul, is why don't people like Sachin Pilot who remain in the party, what is it? Why can't they force the issue? Is it about the fact that the Gandhis have control over the treasury of the party? What is the reason?
Many reasons. One, Congress party, rank and file, a large part of rank and file, believes in certain myths. All organizations create myths for themselves. One of those myths within the Congress party is that Congress cannot survive without Gandhis. And a large part of Congress party actually believes it. So when they keep saying that our party men want
but the
Gandhi family,
the Congress has lost every election under the Gandhis. So at least in the last 8 years. So why is that myth still perpetuating itself?
Oh, and that's why organizations decline. Otherwise, you will never see new organizations coming up if you can course correct, right? Course correction is really, really hard, especially for big ships. And that's why those ships basically sink. So what you will continue seeing since last couple of years and moving forward, Congress is not going to vertically split. What you will see is basically attrition every month, every second month. And those who think that either they don't have a future in the party or party doesn't have a future, they will keep moving out. And so Congress, if it doesn't do anything drastic, will basically go for slow organizational, like death would be a big word, but yes, it will die slowly.
I mean, that's a very drastic.
That's a very drastic.
Major opposition party.
No, because when I'm saying this, I'm looking at history. Congress party can overturn this history. Tell me one single party which collapsed and revived. One single party.
Absolutely, he is right. He is right, Jyoti, and also the fact that just as a supplementary to what he said, why did the Congress allow that to happen? About the myth. Who created the myth? Big section of people or advisors of the Gandhis created the myth that included some very good big shot media people as well. 2004 elections, did anybody had the guts to go and tell the Gandhis that, this was a fluke for you?
The India Shining victory.
Yeah, that Congress big victory that is summed up as Sonia Gandhi's victory. Nobody had the guts to go and tell them, well, Mrs. Gandhi, you know what? Even after this everything, your performance was actually below par when you compare to P.V. Narasimha Rao's victory after 5 years being in power. Heck, it was even below what this Chacha Sitaram Kesari scored for Congress under his presidency. Okay. Nobody had the guts to say that. So that false sense of achievement that continued. 2009 election verdict actually added to that false sense of achievement because India was stable. When things are going stable, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was no more there. And Advani ji antagonized the big time middle class by doing the personal attack on Manmohan Singh, which, people at large could say anything about Manmohan Singh, but he was not corrupt. And that's what people feel. So that further added to that. I remember one very interesting incident. Very senior Congress leader who is no more now, and I can name him actually, Arjun Singh ji. I went to meet him after 2004 elections, and he said to me, and he was minister at that point of time, and he was serious. He said, "How do you see the politics in the future?" And we had some discussion like that, and he said, is the BJP able to figure out why did they lose? I said, they had the best of the campaign and Vajpayee's rating in the 60s and 70s. They are clueless. Why did they lose? And very seriously, Arjun Singh said to me, उसमें problem नहीं है, भाई साहब बोलते थे, भाई साहब उसमें problem नहीं है, दिक्कत ये नहीं है, उन्होंने बड़ी कोशिश की, नेता बहुत अच्छे थे, इंडिया शाइनिंग था और वो हार जाएं और उनको न समझ में आए, ये समझ में आता है कि क्यों हार गए, नहीं समझ में आ रहा है। उससे बड़ी दिक्कत हमारे यहाँ है, हमारे यहाँ आज तक किसी को ये नहीं समझ में आ रहा है कि हम जीते थे।
Okay.
And he was serious about it. He said that if we lose this thing, what we stand for. And Arjun Singh having an idea of secularism, how aggressive he was as far as the education policy and other things were concerned.
That's right.
He had a defined way of looking at the things.
Okay.
So he was very clear that if we confuse this victory with something which we have engineered and we know, then in a long term, it is going to be a disaster for Congress. This I am telling you, Arjun Singh ji, way back in right after the 2004 elections.
Okay, I'm going to draw you both away and take you to Tripura because I think that's quite an interesting, it's a symbol of what's happening in our politics. Now, Manik Saha, like we all know, former congressman, has become the chief minister. But there is a gentleman called Mr. Pal, who a BJP MLA, who, as you've seen some reports and some videos, was very angry that Manik Saha was made the new chief minister. What is happening in the BJP? It's such a tightly controlled party. Bhupendra Yadav was sent from Delhi to manage the trouble or to manage the shift from one chief minister to the other. Rahul, explain to me, why did this BJP MLA dissent from the decision that Manik Sahaj was being made chief minister?
So that's a hard question. I have to read into his mind, but I can think of two reasons.
Okay.
One is basically there is a section of BJP MPs, MLAs, and even workers. They will not say out this open, but they do admit that in last 7-8 years, lots of people from other parties have joined. And this is a concern for us going forward, because if these people also start reaching in important positions, and especially positions of power, some of them might dilute our ideological content. So that's one reason. Second, and it is perhaps, and because this person actually said this while raising the chair, which is there was either a promise or at least a rumor which was circulating that the current deputy chief minister in Tripura, who also belongs to the erstwhile royal family of Tripura, would be made chief minister once the current chief minister goes away. And so he was basically unhappy that his person whom he feels closer to was basically denied the chair in favor of a person who's basically being sort of like brought in by the outgoing chief minister. So the name and the face is changing, but basically the outgoing chief minister in some ways is getting his own person appointed as the new chief minister. So those are the two possible.
But isn't it interesting that there is dissent within the BJP? You don't see this. And it was quite interesting that an MLA had to speak his mind. Yashwant?
So can I just comment on that?
Yeah. So go ahead, Rahul. Yes.
Quick point, which is basically, I think, dissent, dissatisfaction, factionalism is part of all political parties. BJP is not devoid of this. What you might see, and this happens in all cadre-based parties, including CPM, that this dissent and dissatisfaction largely remain within party forums, but you will see occasional outbursts. So it's like, if it becomes a regular feature, then this is something for BJP to worry about. But occasional outbursts should not be taken too seriously.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually agree with Rahul on that. And again, I will just take it a bit further. Tripura and Chintan Shivir, Congress Chintan, they are such stark contrast in the way people think and operate, I think if you look into the BJP's proactive role for damage control, Karnataka definitely is every state is important, but the way they go really, seriously, even for the smaller states like Uttarakhand or Tripura, or for that matter, Goa, look into their national scheme of things, these states with 2 seats, 1 seat in the 543 game of plan,
it doesn't really matter.
But they not. It just shows their seriousness that even for one smaller state, how critically they are thinking about it, how they are going after. And here it is the Congress with a state like Madhya Pradesh. They lost it, won it, and gave it away just because they could not figure out how to control the dissent. And they have waited for the last 4 years. Look at the way they have handled Rajasthan, And for that matter, even if they give Rajasthan now to Sachin Pilot, I genuinely believe, Jyoti, that damage has already been done. I doubt how much Sachin Pilot would be in a position to do the damage control and win Rajasthan again for the Congress. That is a real long task.
Okay, last few minutes, Rahul, can I bring you to the Chintan Shivir of the BJP in Ahmedabad? It was again, it started on Sunday evening in Ahmedabad. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, was there. Now they're looking already at the Gujarat elections that are supposed to take place later this year. And one interesting thing that I thought was interesting is that Hardik Patel, who is in the Congress party, recently joined the party, supposed to be a big Gujarat leader, who did not attend the Chintan Shivir in Udaipur of the Congress. Rahul, what's going on in Gujarat?
Gujarat is going to vote in November, December. So it's a very, very important state. both for BJP as well as for Congress. And the reason why I'm saying, and also for now Aam Aadmi Party, because if you remember, 2017 Gujarat in some ways gave this a sort of like idea that BJP could be challenged and challenge in its home turf. And after 2017 Gujarat, the only win BJP had till 2019 election or big win was Tripura in 2018. Other than that, they were basically having a very, very difficult time going forward 2017. So last time, given the unique situation Gujarat was in, Congress managed to basically push BJP to the corner. I don't think, given that BJP has been ruling the state for now 25, 30 years and those situations are not present, Congress would be able to give a similar fight. And especially now that a new party, Aam Aadmi Party, is moving in. They defeated a Congress party in Punjab. And they seem to have done well in Surat municipal election. So Gujarat being a state with 40 to 45% urban population, there is a high likelihood that I'm not saying Aam Aadmi Party will either emerge as number 2 or displace even BJP, but they are certainly going to hurt Congress. And now the question for Congress is that will it allow or cede more space to players like Aam Aadmi Party? If that continues to happen, because you've seen a lot of Congress leaders in last couple of weeks have actually joined the Aam Aadmi Party or the BJP. So Gujarat Congress is in a very, very tight spot. And BJP realizes that a new party is moving in, even if it's sitting pretty in terms of a possibility of winning the state, it should not basically lose out some ground to this new upcoming party, Aam Aadmi Party, because if not today, 5 years later, this party could become a headache for them.
Okay, one of the reports, Yashwant, that I have read this morning is on this Gujarat Chintan Shivir, is that the BJP is identifying all the seats that it won in the last elections, that is in 2017, with less than 5,000 votes ka margin, and also the seats that the Congress party won. And now they're going to look closely at those seats. Now, the question is, even though the BJP won only 99 seats, of course, later on it got some more. What is the message from this? What is it that they are, what is this machinery, which is already a juggernaut, the BJP machinery? What is it now that they want to do?
I think they got a shocker 5 years back. And whatever we have been discussing for the last an hour or so, the way we know that BJP learns from their shockers, they will go for the kill. It's going to be a massacre.
What does it mean? What does that mean?
It only means that BJP was actually caught off guard last time. And there was a huge incumbency, absence of Narendra Modi from the state, and many things counted in. But the way I look at the scenario right now, Modi giving the handles to C.R. Patil, who is an absolute no-nonsense party administrator, and the emergence of, just like Rahul said, Aam Aadmi Party. People might consider their Surat verdict as an aberration of the Patel Andolan. But look at the most recent Gandhinagar verdict, where they have actually eclipsed Congress in terms of vote share. You know, and polling more than 20%. It's a very, very credible thing. And what was the output? BJP swept Gandhinagar municipality, which even in the peak of the BJP could not win. You know, that was the outcome. What I'm simply trying to say, your viewers, many of them might not know, while Gandhinagar Lok Sabha, which Advani ji won and Amit Shah has won now, it might be considered a BJP bastion, but at the local level, municipality level, it was all along a Congress bastion. All along, even at the time of when BJP was at the peak, Godhra, 2002, blah, 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 you carry everything into account. Even Narendra Modi as the chief minister could not really do much about Gandhinagar municipalities. But BJP swept Gandhinagar municipality. Why? Because of the virtual split of the opposition votes. If Aam Aadmi Party is going to poll for 20% in Gandhinagar municipality, there is no way Congress is going to win. And this election now, it is going to be a complete direct contest of if Aam Aadmi Party in a position to damage or try to be the number 2 like they did 5 years back in Punjab. in Punjab, for all practical reasons, they did become number 2, and then 5 years down the line, they did become number 1.
That's right.
So, so for Congress, forget about winning the local assembly election. I believe the biggest challenge for the Congress would be to just to ensure that they remain as the principal opposition party in Gujarat. And the same is going to happen in Himachal. Because you remember, Jyoti, that way back, 7-8 years back, when Aam Aadmi Party was launched, we did a cover issue for the India Today. It was called Aap Positive. And we had done a first-hand traction of study of where exactly in India people are more pro to such an experiment. And at that point of time, Rahul, more than Delhi, the traction was in Punjab. So we knew that Punjab was a kind of a study where they are bound to come at some point of time. It was right. At the same point of time, we also figured out they had a traction in Uttarakhand, they had traction in Himachal, they had traction in Goa, and they also had a traction in Maharashtra and Gujarat. And particularly the metros and the urban areas in that way. So what I'm simply trying to say, Aam Aadmi Party has launched a campaign to project themselves as the alternative to the Congress at the national level. And one state by the other, they will do the next 10 years of politics of simply trying to eclipse Congress and be a challenger to the BJP. At the assembly level, they will damage the Congress, because I doubt that any party can overnight. Arvind Kejriwal cannot replicate himself everywhere. And it took them 7 years to project Bhagwant Mann as a leader in the state. So overnight, it doesn't happen that way everywhere. But then what the funny thing is, Jyoti, we have also seen Delhi going 7-0, 67, 7-0, 65. And each time in 7-0, it was the Congress which the people of Delhi voted as the number 2 party in Lok Sabha perspective.
Right.
So it's we have to now very carefully observe the states where Aam Aadmi Party is growing, whether people are swinging to this experiment at the assembly level or they are trying to look something at the national level. If the Congress continues to have a traction at the national level like they did in Delhi Lok Sabha elections, then I think we are still looking a long-term kind of a layer within a layer kind of a politics of opposition and anti-incumbency that we are looking at. But at this point of time, I think Congress is going to face huge trouble. Huge would be an understatement.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying this, because also with, about the Aam Aadmi Party, in fact, Arvind Kejriwal is in Kerala, where he's tied up with that small 2020 party. Now, I'm not sure that's going to get him anywhere, but the fact that he's ambitious enough to even want to go to Kerala. And of course, we haven't discussed the Prashant Kishore repercussions of what his plans in Bihar are, but I think we will leave that for another discussion. Today has been an absolute masterclass in politics, and I would encourage all of you, dear viewers, to write in with your comments and tell us what else you want to hear from both Yashwant Deshmukh and Rahul Verma. Thank you both, gentlemen, for your time. I cannot thank you enough for joining me in the print debates.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jyoti.